What you got there, Joe?
Well, I've been doing a lot of podcast research lately, and I hear that if you have a cute puppy golden in your lap, you typically get 2 or 3 times the followers. And so I'm hoping that today, new puppy Harvey, which is the newest addition to one of our teammates, Taylor, his new puppy, who's going to be joining us in the office today.
Yeah.
So
we're meeting him for the first time today. Look at him. He still has puppy breath,
he
by
just
the
woke
way.
up and he's licking me.
Yeah.
Anyways, this makes dog number 4 in our office.
I know. It's fantastic.
Eventually, I guess my dogs will have to come, making it 6, which might be a little much for this office.
It sure would be fun.
We need weekly cleaning service if that's the case.
Indeed. The hair from my 2 dogs alone is ridiculous.
Well, anyways, welcome back. Pre-race happy hour podcast.
Is this number 4?
My name is Joe Fleenor.
My name is Faye Yates.
This is number 4.
Yeah.
And we're super excited. Today, we're back for number 4, talking about the 2024 Mountain Lakes Triathlon, the 37th running of this year's race.
Coming up on July 27th, just around the corner. Super excited.
Yeah. So I mentioned pre-race happy hour podcast. I think I missed that key point there. And we are here with a happy hour drink.
Yeah.
Tell us what we got here today.
So today we have Main Channel beer. And what we're doing, if you haven't listened to a podcast with us before, with our happy hours, we're trying to pay a little homage, Joe, to our...
Is it homage or homage?
Do we need to edit that?
I think we keep it. Let's have one of our listeners let us know. Is it homage or homage?
I don't know. They both sound right to me now. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But what I do have an answer to is this beer. Mm-hmm. It's Main Channel Brewery, and it's in Guntersville, Alabama. And we're about to try Hydrant City Lager is what I have, Joe.
And I have the Amber Ale. And what's really cool about these cans that we have, so our viewers can see these, but these were actually, you stopped by Main Channel Brewing just a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
And they actually canned these that day for us, for this podcast.
For this podcast, July 8th. I was there for a little logistics meeting. Reviewing the site.
Yeah.
It's open. Ooh.
I mean, that's proof we're drinking. So if you're not... If you're not watching, at least you now know that we truly are drinking. Be careful pouring, because these are little tiny cups they gave us, little sampling cups.
Let's see who did better here.
So I'm excited. I have the amber beer, and you have the lager beer. So let's have our first sip. Cheers, Faye.
Cheers.
Love it.
I love it. It's fantastic.
Main Channel partnered with this race last year.
They did.
Where what's really cool about this, they've got an amazing little tap room there, very close to the race site. And we let athletes have a beer tab on their bib, and they were able to redeem that post-race at the brewery. And I remember, do you remember this, where one of our team members sent us a text after that race with a picture of the bar after that race.
All the race shirts.
And it was all the race shirts just sitting there at the bar. So that was great.
Let me give a shout out to how this free beer happens. So one of our partners, Marshall County Tourism and Sports, they do so much for this race, as does the city of Guntersville, of course. They are the sponsor of this beer for the racers to go and have a beer with them.
It's really nice they do that.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah.
So thank you to Marshall County Tourism and Sports and to Main Channel Beer for giving us the hookup, not only for this podcast, but also for our racers next weekend. We say next weekend. I'm not really sure when listeners are going to be listening to this. It might be the week of, but we are just coming off of a really successful event in Louisville with our 10th annual Tri-Louisville race. So we're still riding that high.
We're riding high.
And last podcast, we got to sample some of the bourbon that was gifted to us and had great mint juleps.
Bourbon. You made those mint juleps, Joe. They were fantastic.
Well,
I mean, come on. They were so good.
I think the best part of this is just sampling lots of these different drinks we have, and sometimes beer, sometimes liquor, and today it's just a great beer from Main Channel.
It's a great beer. It makes it so fun. Yeah, Louisville was fantastic. Yeah, it was so good.
I think it was the best one, yeah. I mean, obviously it was a sellout, first time we've done that, but just overall vibes was great. And it really seems, knock on wood, that just seems to be the trend this year, right?
The trend, I mean, all of our races are up. People are having a great time. I mean, I feel it just fills me up every race.
Yeah.
Just to see people crossing the finish line and so happy. And just happy to be there. Yeah, it's a good year. 2024. Let's write it down.
Let's write it down.
Very good year.
Best year ever?
for us. So,
For
I
us
mean,
so
we
far.
started this together in 21.
That was not the best year.
It's a tough year, Joe.
We had a lot of fun, sort of.
Sort of. Well, we always have fun. We make it fun.
We tease.
It was challenging. I feel like this is our first year where like things, the race numbers are up. Our staff is just spot on. You know, we got had a lot of new staff come in 2022. And what people don't realize is, well, they probably do realize, behind the scenes to make these races great requires a lot of great people. And we really have a great staff. Shout out to them. Cheers to our staff.
Cheers to them,
I'm not
for
sure
sure.
if we've done that appropriately yet.
Yeah,
Cheers.
sometimes, you and I get too much of this credit when in reality it's the people behind the scenes that
Absolutely.
they don't know the names or faces of, but they're really the ones putting the race
yeah.
on. So
Absolutely.
okay, so we're in here to talk about Mountain Lakes. And Mountain Lakes, we mentioned earlier, 37 years running.
Yeah.
This is one of the longest running races in the United States, the second longest running race of Team Magic, now Magic Sports. So
Right.
talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
history of Magic Sports in this race.
Yeah, so fun note. I used to race a lot, Joe. We've talked about that.
I'm sure
So-
you podiumed many times.
This is my first Olympic distance triathlon.
Oh, that's cool.
So a quick history, very quick. It was at the state park, Lake Guntersville State Park in the beginning, and I was not part of the staff of Team Magic back then. I was just racing, and I did the Olympic race at the state park, and I did I call it a gorilla swim for the entire swim because I was so nervous. Like head out of the water, entire swim, never took a breath.
Just arms?
Yeah, totally just arms. But I did it, and I had a fantastic time.
Nice.
And that race was out there for a few years, and then we moved it into the city of Guntersville, which is where we are now, and we love to be in the city of Guntersville. We still have the Olympic. We also have a very successful and popular sprint race.
Yeah. I mean, since my involvement, the venue, it's remarkable. It's beautiful. We're going to get into a little bit of Guntersville in general and how it's kind of this, I wouldn't call it like this hidden gem because I think a lot of people do know about Guntersville, but especially from outside of Alabama. Like when we talk about this race to people from Georgia and Tennessee
Right.
that might not be as familiar, it is remarkably beautiful
Yeah.
and an amazing place to travel and bring your family and do some fun stuff in Guntersville. So we're doing a little bit of that this year.
We are. We're going to stay over and have a little staff outing,
A little boat trip.
a little boat trip in the afternoon after the morning racing. Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, let me talk about something else about this race that's important because we have how many people? This is the first time they're doing this race, Joe? Roughly?
Like 70-something people, which is roughly 17% of our racers have never done a triathlon before.
Never
this
done
race.
never done a triathlon, but what about this race?
This race in particular, 1 out of every 3 has never
Yeah.
participated in this race.
So the name is deceiving. When it was at the state park, there were some hills. There are no hills in this race, really. A couple of little
It is
rollers,
deceiving.
minor rollers on the bike course. You can, it's just a fast and flat course.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I drove the bike course when I was there on July 8th picking up the beer. I didn't drive there just to pick up the beer, but it was a big focus. I drove the bike course just checking things out like we do. And I just thought, I would love to be racing this race.
The roads are perfect.
They're great.
And
Yeah.
you're just going around the lake. It's
Yeah.
just a big loop.
Yeah, it's a big loop. It's awesome.
So-
And then a greenway run. It's fantastic.
Yeah. But I think the best part about this race, and I think this is the reason why this race has had big numbers over the years, especially with new racers, is that swim course. It's not a pool swim, which is generally what you correlate new racers with pool swimming. This is an open water race,
Yeah.
but tell us why beginners love this swim course so
Yeah.
much.
I actually think, we pride ourselves, you and I do now working together, and we've always, prior to us working together, Team Magic, and when it began, I feel like was always very focused on the new triathlete. And this is our second oldest race, and it really comes from this race because most of the swim course is shallow enough to walk. So that word got out. So people are like, okay, if I panic, I can just stand up. I don't even have to, tread water. I can just stand up. And that really permeated through the triathlon community. So I think a lot of triathletes would bring their newbies with them. And that's really what got that race going and really started our appreciation for focusing on the new athlete too.
So it's great because the park and rec and the pool there has all their lifeguards out in the water, and most of them can just kind of stand up out there, and it's well patrolled and safe, and it's just great. I love it a lot. But you mentioned this a couple years ago. One of my favorite parts about that swim was right before we were about to send the swimmers into the water. This kind of pop-up storm happened, which seems to happen often, but especially at this race. And it popped up, and it was significant. And we had to, button the hatches, as they say. And so as we were bringing everything back out to start the race, about 30, 45 minutes later, we look out in the water, and we're like, where's our buoys out there? And the storm had just taken those buoys all the way down the Tennessee River.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to go fetch those miles down the river.
Miles. They went miles down.
But we got it started.
Yeah, we got it started.
Nobody had any idea except for us.
Except for us.
And those poor people in that boat that had to go fishing them out of the...
That was quite a day.
It was.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look back at some of those photos of the clouds coming in.
Yeah, there's a really epic photo of that day.
I was impressed with everyone. The racers were so chill and calm and understanding, and and our staff just jumped on it. It was like it was really amazing. The communication piece was amazing.
Chill, and I think that's a great word. I think that's kind of the vibe of the race, and I don't know if it's because of the tie-dye that's kind of associated with this race, but it just seems like the racers that come to Mountain Lakes are not as like type A as a lot of the other events. It's just a little bit more relaxed atmosphere.
I think it's really relaxed, and I think maybe it is the tie-dye. We were talking earlier, Joe. The tie-dye started before my time, and I'm guessing it was a thing that came on, like it was a popular thing of the time, like when neon came back and was big, and it started, and we actually did it for a few years and tried to stop and really got some backlash.
We listened to the racers, and they let us know.
And so we did for a few years have tie-dye in the logo itself, in the state of Alabama logo, and then this year, guess what's happening?
Bringing it all the way back.
All the way back.
Full shirt tie-dye. Mm-hmm. That'll be fun. Yeah. So if you want to take a look at that shirt, it's on our website.
Yep.
We'll also be receiving those in our pre-race emails as well.
Right.
We talked a little bit about Guntersville itself and, why people should go to Guntersville. And I'm one of those. Like, I've just been just for the race itself, but I plan on coming more with the family soon and hanging out and making a whole weekend of it or week of it.
Yeah.
I did notice that we have 135 of our racers that are staying in a hotel or an Airbnb or something like that for this race. So a lot of people are coming in and traveling and staying in a hotel, which is great. So,
yeah, it's super.
A good travel crowd for this.
Yeah.
One of our local clubs there outside of Huntsville, we got to give them a shout out because we were noticing that our Team Rocket Tri-Club out of Huntsville, Alabama, a great partner of ours with this race over the years, with many of our Alabama especially races.
Yeah.
But for this race in particular, I looked at their numbers. They are coming out in force.
Doubled this year, right, over last year so far?
More than double the number of athletes that they had last year coming out this year, with almost 70 racers just from that one club. So big shout out to Team Rocket Tri-Club.
Yeah, we're excited to have them. We usually get really good representation also from the Birmingham clubs, which is
Vulcan
nice.
triathletes have a lot of people coming.
Yeah, what's the new club?
The Central Alabama Tri-Club.
And there's also a second one in Birmingham. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we have 12 states.
It says a lot about just right around that area, how triathlon is, maybe the place you would least expect it, but here we go. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a fun fact for you that I did not give you any sort of lead up on this.
Cool, I'm ready.
We have 3 countries represented.
Oh.
The United States is one of them, obviously. There's 2 others. Can you name those 2? Can you name
Canada.
one of them? Incorrect. And you're probably going to say Mexico next. Incorrect. The answers, and one of these countries has 2 racers coming from it.
Spain.
Switzerland. Switzerland has 2 racers coming from Switzerland.
Bring it on.
1 racer is coming from Brazil.
Really?
So this is our most, so far to date, our most exotic event that we've put on in terms of representation from other countries.
I just like saying Brazil. Yeah.
So, anyways, that's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that
little tidbit.
Newsflash.
Well, Guntersville is only 2.5 hours from Nashville, like 3 hours from Atlanta, hour and a half from Chattanooga, an hour-ish from Birmingham.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to get to from here, kind of in the southeast. So,
it is. Yeah.
You were there getting the beer like you talked about. There's some changes to the venue.
Yeah.
Not to the course itself, but
Right.
to the venue.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that, because I'm really excited about these.
Yeah. So one thing, if you've never been to this race, listening to this, and it's like I've never been. It's my first time at the race. One of the coolest things about the race is that it's got a recreation center and a bunch of ball fields and things and tennis courts and everything right at the venue, but it sits on the lake that you swim in. So we have an indoor option, for packet pickup and post race. We also have this outdoor pool, and we've always had a cool area to hang out right around the race site. Well, when I was there last Monday, I discovered that they have just finished some greenways. They've extended greenways where our finish line is, our run course and finish line. They've extended the greenway. They've built a brand new, beautiful pavilion just outside of the outdoor pool, so between the lake and the pool. It's just, Guntersville is doing things to constantly improve. And in this case, it happens to be right at our race site.
We'll take it.
And we're, we'll take advantage of some of those. We'll be using some of those new things and incorporating
new finish line
them.
Location.
Yeah, a little slightly different finish line location to enjoy that greenway expansion, and maybe some awards out from that new pavilion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pool will still be open though, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we encourage people to, come cool down in the pool. There's also a new splash pad that should be open, which is actually kind of a fun way, to cool down for everyone. And it's very family friendly, this place.
It is.
So they'll have lifeguards on deck and kids can get in the water. It's going to be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So this race in years past, I remember you telling me the story, and it shocked me because this race has always been very well attended. But you gave me numbers from years past. 1,000 racers used to come to this?
Just under 1,000. I think 983 maybe was our highest number. Yeah,
Wow.
It was huge.
And that was sprint only, right?
Yeah, that was sprint only. Yeah, it's crazy. So, there's, back in the day, in the mid-2000s, USA Triathlon awarded companies Sprint National Championship. And we were one of those companies that had Sprint National Championship. And that brought a big crowd, and they kept coming back. We were already growing in that direction, and which is probably the reason we got awarded, right? I think that exposure did really help us. And the race just it stayed kind of there for several years. And then, the industry changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing, though.
We've ridden that. It was, very, our numbers are up this year, Joe.
Well, there's somebody that I noticed. During registration, we have a box that they can fill in any comments that they want the finish line announcer to know, or just anybody on our team to know about them. And it's always fun to read those. There's some interesting comments, to say the least, but there are some fantastic ones. And one that came through was a lady. I didn't write her name down, but one of our participants raced this race 29 years ago. And has not raced since that day, and she's coming back to race it again 29 years later. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Wow.
So we'll need to celebrate her.
We definitely need to celebrate her.
At the race.
Yeah,
so. This is going to be fun, though. This is 37 years running. I can't wait for the next few years, and we get to celebrate number 40 with this event.
I know.
We'll have some really exciting things. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what that check-in process looks for this race, and kind of the transition area look of the Guntersville Rec Center, and where we kind of place things and things like that? Yeah,
so this, like I mentioned, this venue has a recreation center adjacent. The parking lot just adjacent to it is where your transition area is. So everything is super compact and spectator friendly and check-in friendly. When you arrive, you will see some construction, and we have actually had some locals reach out to us and say, hey, if you're not aware, there's a lot of construction fencing around. It doesn't impact our race because it's around the senior center, which also flanks the transition area, and they're completely redoing that senior center. We're going to be fine. It won't impact the race at all. Everyone will be happy to know that has seen that is local, that does race. And like I said, the recreation center is the check-in spot, and the post-race party and everything is also inside the recreation center, poolside, and at the new pavilion.
Air conditioned.
It's air conditioned. Yeah, it's air conditioned, and you have a pool. So it's to me, it's kind of. I mean, I love all of our races. They all have really cool elements. Neat things about them. But having that, especially for our staff,
yeah,
it's nice for our staff to have the indoor space, right? Yeah, a little
the
break
indoor
from the
space.
heat.
So heat is funny because I was thinking about last year's finish line, and we had, I'm sure we can find a video of this, but we had these two gentlemen. I think they were a dad or uncle of one of the participants.
Yeah.
And they hung out at that finish line. It was hot that day. Luckily, it was shaded, but it was still hot. But they stood by that finish line the entire race. And I don't know I'm not going to judge how old they were, but they were upwards. And they were going crazy at the finish line with bells and just cheering and screaming and just creating the most amazing kind of atmosphere for that post race. So I don't remember who they were, but I hope they're back this year because that finish line atmosphere is great.
Yeah, and they were just at the finish line. I mean, they were at each segment. I mean, they were cheering people on. And I just had a puppy visit, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Harvey's like, I woke up, he's like, who's that over there?
He's like, I need to get back on this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing that's cool about this race. You know, we talk about how cool the venue is. We talk about the, tradition of this race, been around 37 years. The locals come out and cheer, and a lot of families travel with their racers to this race. Because it's a good time of year to travel still, late July. And I think a lot of people stay over and enjoy the things. There's a water park nearby. In our pre-race emails, in your pre-race email, you'll see a flyer that comes out with things to do. And that's one of the things to do. And that's very new. I think that's been there 3 or 4 years, this water park. So there's a lot of stuff to do outside of just coming and enjoying our fantastic race.
Yeah, a lot of outdoor activities.
Lots of outdoor activities.
In
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to talk about for Mountain Lakes other than just keep drinking our main channel beer?
I'm running out, Joe, so I've got to fill up. Are you way ahead of me? Have I been talking too much?
Probably.
Yeah, let's see. What else do we need to talk about with Mountain Lakes?
I think that's it.
Our awards. We have a display here. Did we talk about the awards?
We have not talked about the awards. This is an example of an award.
It's an example of an award.
So we talked about tie-dye. Every participant will receive a tie-dye t-shirt, which we talked about, but then also the towels. So the tie-dye towel awards are very popular at this race.
Yep.
Participants love them. Once again, it'll kind of match the look of the t-shirt design we have. So we'll have tie-dye towels and t-shirts as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about logistics a little bit.
Okay.
So racers,
Piggly Wiggly. When you think about logistics for this race, you think about parking, and I think about Piggly Wiggly.
Because I was headed to parking, so it's perfect.
That was my very first job, by the way.
Was it?
Piggly Wiggly.
Nice. Did you get to work the register, or were you just bagging groceries? I mean, I shouldn't say just. It's an important job.
Bagging.
It's an important job.
I started sweeping the floors.
Perfect.
Then bagging groceries. Then checking out guests.
Oh, look at you moving up.
Yeah, and then customer service desk.
Oh, Joe. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, look at you. Customer service at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah. Sold a lot of cigarettes back there.
You probably still could now. It's still out there. So more than. So Piggly Wiggly is right across the street from our recreation center where we're hosting the race, and there is ample parking there. We do ask the people leave a few spaces close to the Piggly Wiggly so we don't.
You don't want to monopolize the Piggly parking lot.
Monopolize the Piggly parking lot. There's a couple other things in there too. I can't remember what they are. Maybe like a Dollar General or a Family Dollar. There's also a big field. If we don't have flooding rain, there's a huge field right beside that Piggly Wiggly. That's some ideal parking space too. And the local owner of that field is happy to let us use it. Yeah.
I'm sorry. This thinking logistics brought up something that happened last year at this race. I mentioned a storm from a few years ago. It seems like there's always kind of a little pop-up thing here and there at this race. But during setup day last year, one of our crew was out there setting up the run course. He was doing the mile markers and turn signs, and we kind of forgot he was out there. He was just kind of like running and walking out there with all the signs, and all of a sudden the storm comes down. So we're all like indoors, like buttoned up, and we look around, we're like, where's John?
Yeah.
We forgot. John was still on the course.
John's on the course.
And so we called John, and John's like, yeah, I'm just... He had just found somebody's home, and he was just under their porch, just hanging out. John also loves this race. We can talk about John all day long with stories, but one fantastic thing about John Earl, he's one of our great staffers, is he loves this race because we go in a day early. And we take advantage of a great partner of this race and a local dining establishment. And it's John Earl's favorite meal of his life.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't miss it for the world. But talk about that a little bit.
We teased him a little bit this year about us not having that, secured, or then maybe that he needed to come Friday instead of Thursday, and he's like, no way, no way, no way. So Rock House Eatery is so good, Joe.
Racers coming into town should absolutely try Rock House.
Yeah, and they have their sister restaurant is Cafe 336, a little more casual, has breakfast, lunch kind of thing. It's right on. They're both right off of Main Street, the main drag going through downtown Guntersville.
Cute little drag.
Yeah, and we enjoy it Thursday night. So we drive in an extra day early, really just to go to Rock House Eatery. I mean, we like to get the trailers there and know that we're set and no travel issues. We're really there for Rock House Eatery. Yeah,
I usually get the prime rib.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
I get the filet.
Mm-hmm. John gets the pork chop.
He does. Yeah. We're predictable. It's all delicious.
Well, it's a fun event. We have lots of stories about this race. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
What I'll call traditions that go along with it.
Right.
So we're excited to kind of continue those traditions and start new ones. And hopefully racers that come in, especially a lot of our people that have never participated, can start their own traditions with this race and start adding that as part of their race calendar each year.
Yeah.
So
let's do one quick reminder on our safety stuff. One quick reminder.
Always good to add that.
Yeah, let's add. I mean, it's mainly the bike course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really everything else. You can look online for all the most commonly violated rules and things you should do. If you're new and you don't know those rules, you can check it out on our website and your pre-race emails. But the thing I think most that we want to encourage for safety is on the bike course, be sure you're always riding to the right unless you're passing. And if you are passing, be considerate of others. Those are the two things. Do you have a puppy? Were we having a puppy moment?
Sorry, I just banged the microphone, but she was right underneath me, or he was right underneath me.
Harvey, he doesn't care.
Harvey had to come back in to kind of close this thing out with us.
Hey, Harvey. Well, that's all I wanted to say about just ride to the right, be considerate of others, and come and have fun. This race is about fun. We're accomplishing goals and having fun. So
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to a word you just said.
I know.
But I'm sure it was very good.
He's already going straight back to sleep.
Yeah. I mean...
Puppies are the best.
Puppies are the best.
Okay,
Cheers, Faye.
Cheers.
We'll see everybody on...
I think it's July 27th.
July 27th.
It's July 27th.
I think. All right.